In Brazil, President Luis Ignacio da Silva met his Venezuelan counterpart Nicolas Maduro at the Planalto Palace in Brasilia ahead of the gathering of South American leaders on Tuesday. World leaders congratulate President Recep Tayyip Erdogan following his re-election with more than 52% of the votes. And in Nigeria, Bola Tinubu was sworn in as President of the Republic following his victory in February's general elections. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Monday, the presidents of Brazil and Venezuela, Luis Ignacio da Silva and Nicolas Maduro, respectively, met in the Planalto Palace, seat of the Brazilian government in the capital, Brasilia. Lula and Maduro held a private meeting at the Planalto Palace and afterwards offered a joint press conference. They discussed the re-establishment of bilateral relations and the restart of cooperation in energy, agriculture, culture, education, and health. Maduro and Lula reviewed the development of bilateral relations even the years of estrangement under former President Bolsonaro's term. Both heads of state referred to Venezuela's aspirations to join BRICS and also offered prospects of the UNASUR gathering to be held on May 30th by saying it would be the occasion to find common solutions to regional issues in the aftermath of COVID-19 and worldwide recession.
The first official meeting of the BRICS in which it will participate after 8 years, and there are several proposals from other countries that want to join the BRICS. We are going to discuss it because it does not depend on the will of Brazil. It depends on the will of all of us. We are going to discuss if there is an official request. This request will be officially taken to the BRICS, and we will decide there. And if you ask me, I am in favor of it.
From Brazil, the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, expressed his country's willingness to join the BRICS group in order to contribute to the construction of a new world architecture.
Our great and powerful friend Saudi Arabia is taking steps to join the BRICS Bank. Can you imagine? And if you ask us in Venezuela, do you aspire one day to be accepted in the BRICS? Venezuela says yes. We would like to be part of the BRICS in a modest way. To be part of the BRICS and to accompany the construction of this new architecture, of this new world geopolitics, of this new
After 8 years, Maduro returned to Brazil to recover the right to make international relations policy.
After 8 years, President Maduro returns to visit Brazil, and we regain the right to make international relations policy with the seriousness with which we have always done it, especially in countries that border Brazil. And Venezuela has always been an exceptional ally for Brazil, but due to political contingencies and mistakes, President Maduro had 8 years without coming to Brazil, and Brazil had a long time without going to Venezuela.
President Maduro went on to say that his visit to Brazil opens a new era of relations between Venezuela and Brazil in all areas of cooperation.
Today, a new chapter begins in the relations between our countries and our peoples. And in this new chapter, a new map of cooperation and joint work must be built, covering all areas of the economy, all areas of trade, education, health, culture, agriculture, all areas of cooperation between peoples, and allowing a continuous direct and open dialogue between the governments of Brazil and Venezuela and South American governments in general.
Brazil's President Lula da Silva said he dreams of a currency for doing business between countries and hopes to be able to discuss this issue during the meeting with the South American presidents.
I dream that we will have a currency between our countries so that we can do business without relying on the US dollar, even because the dollar only has the dollar, and that country does what it wants with the dollar. And it is not possible that we do not have more freedom to do business. I dream that BRICS can have a currency like the European Union built the euro, so I think we have to move forward.
The President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, also called for the unity of Latin America in order to promote development and respond to the main problems affecting the region.
Today it is proposed that we all be united. that we all respect each other, that we impose the culture of dialogue, that we learn to listen, and from the culture of dialogue we move forward in the great themes of common development, of the defense of the environment of the Amazon, for example, of social development, of the development of a public health system that works throughout the continent, of the development of food security, of the development of energy security. How many important themes we have, of the development of the financial and monetary independence that our America needs.
This meeting marks a milestone in bilateral relations for both nations, as this is the first visit by the Venezuelan head of state to Brazil since 2015, when he attended the inauguration of former President Dilma Rousseff for her second term. Both countries had years of estrangement under the government of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, and from 2019 to 2022, last Friday, the foreign ministers of Brazil, Mauro Vieira, and Venezuela, Ivan Gil, discussed priority issues of the bilateral agenda at a time of resumption of relations between the two countries. This meeting also marks a rapprochement of Venezuela to the Union of South American Nations, UNASUR. The heads of state of Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Paraguay, Suriname, Uruguay, and Venezuela have confirmed their presence. Venezuela's Minister for Agriculture and Land, Wilmar Castro Soteldo, met on Monday with his Brazilian counterpart, Carlos Favaro. The meeting took place at Brazilia's Planalto Palace in the context of Venezuela's first high-level visit to Brazil since 2015, after both nations resumed their diplomatic and commercial relations. Castro Soteldo told the press that in the first meeting, both parties recognized their country's potential in agriculture, expressed their commitments for the cooperation between Brazil and Venezuela in that sector, and agreed on further meetings to set up a roadmap in order to implement concrete actions towards that end. On the other hand, Minister Favaro expressed his and his government's joy for the new relations between Brazil and Venezuela based on friendly and mutual respect, and reiterated his government's intention to develop the cooperation of both countries' agriculture and food industries. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. Representatives of at least 175 countries met in France to establish an agreement to move towards the end of plastic pollution. Diplomats will discuss at UNESCO headquarters the second of 5 stages of negotiations to reach what will be a historic agreement on the life cycle of plastic. The meeting will also bring together NGOs and companies in the plastic sector, as well as environmental activists who will also attend the discussions. For their part, attendees at the meeting emphasized the urgency of agreeing on a global instrument for the fight against plastic.
Current governance on plastic pollution is really fragmented, so we need a global instrument, and especially a legally binding instrument, because voluntary has clearly shown that it doesn't work. So it needs to be legally binding, addressing the full life cycle of plastic. So this is an absolutely historic chance that we are now discussing here.
People have to see the harm that the plastics and chemicals is causing to our bodies and to our environment. So by us here participating in the events, we can have a voice. We can say we want to live in a clean, safe, and healthy environment.
Leaders from around the world salute Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan after winning his re-election with more than 52% of the votes. The President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, assured that Erdogan's victory reflects the support of the Turkish people for the strengthening of the state's sovereignty and the advancement of an independent foreign policy. For his part, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, congratulated the Turkish head of state and reiterated his desire to continue working on bilateral issues and common global challenges. The President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, along with other Latin American heads of states, greeted President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on his success in the second round. In response, the Turkish president said he would take stock of the overall fate of Turkey for the construction of a new world order. In Serbia, President Aleksandar Vučić denounced NATO's intentions to cause a conflict between the country and the province of Kosovo. The president announced that the Prime Minister of Kosovo, Albin Kurti, is organizing a series of confrontations in the north of the province to cause a conflict between the Serbian army and the forces of the Atlantic Alliance present in the region. In the face of the violence, Vučić stated that Serbian authorities will patrol several localities to prevent his country's citizens from being victims of any kind of aggression or abuse. He also called on Serbian citizens in Kosovo to protest peacefully and say that his government will do everything possible to maintain peace. In this context, the Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić called a meeting with representatives of the United States, United Kingdom, Germany, France and Italy on May 30th due to the escalation of tensions in Kosovo. He also denounced that the recent tensions in Kosovo were organized by the separatist government of the province of Kosovo. The Serbian Minister of Defense, Milos Vučević, affirmed last Sunday that the tension in Kosovo reached the maximum level and could lead to a military conflict. For his part, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said during his visit to Kenya that the situation in Kosovo is alarming.
Major explosion is brewing in the center of Europe, in the same place where in 1999 NATO carried out an aggression against Yugoslavia in violation of every conceivable principle of the Helsinki Final Act and other OSCE documents. The situation is alarming, but the West has set a course for the total subjugation of all those who in any way express their own opinion.
On Monday, President Vladimir Putin signed into law the nation's withdrawal from the Conventional Armed Forces in Europe Treaty. The agreement is based on a system of quantitative limitations on the 5 main categories of armaments and equipment of the conventional armed forces of the participating states: battle tanks, armored combat vehicles, artillery, attack helicopters, and combat aircraft. Russian presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Moscow did not expect any immediate consequences from the treaty's termination. He also stated that in this area, as well as in the area of arms control and strategic stability, there is now a huge gap that, in theory, urgently needs to be filled with new international legal acts that would regulate the situation. However, he highlighted that this requires bilateral working relationships with a number of states that do not now exist through no fault of Russia. teleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat, Dial 461, and enjoy Latin American alternative broadcasts. One final short break, we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back from the South. The U.S., Japanese, and Philippine Coast Guards will conduct a trilateral maritime exercise in the South China Sea this week, the first such maneuvers at a time of growing concern over China's alleged moves in the region. The exercise, which will take place from June 1st to the 7th in waters of Bataan Province, is an initiative of the United States and Japan, while Australia will join as an observer. Philippine Coast Guard spokesman Armand Balilo said on Monday the Philippines was approached by the powers to conduct joint maritime exercises in February. The same month, Manila accused China of aggressive activities in the South China Sea. For its part, Beijing maintains that the actions of its Coast Guard are legal and take place in its territorial waters. The exercises seek to exacerbate the South China Sea conflict that involves Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei, in addition to China. On Monday, Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei said his country wants to restore diplomatic relations with Egypt, which were severed after the triumph of the Islamic Revolution in 1979. Visiting Omani Sultan Haytham bin Tariq during a meeting in the Persian country conveyed to Khamenei Egypt's readiness to resume relations with Tehran, to which Iran's Supreme Leader responded by stating that his country welcomes this stance and sees no problem in it. Iranian and Egyptian representatives have held meetings in recent months to mend ties between the two countries. The possible restoration of diplomatic relations between Iran and Egypt comes after the Persian country and Saudi Arabia agreed in March to resume normal diplomatic relations with China's mediation. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu was sworn into office following his victory in the general elections held in February. Bola Tinubu took the oath of office from Chief Justice Olukayode Ariwoola in a colorful ceremony held in the nation's capital, Abuja. Tinubu, 71 years old, succeeds Muhammadu Buhari, who was ineligible to run again after two 4-year terms that began in 2015. Both men are members of the All Progressive Congress. In his first speech as president, Tinubu promised to run an inclusive government and ensure proper representation of women and young people. He also mentioned the need for a thorough house cleaning of the country's monetary policy, saying the central bank must work towards a unified exchange rate. The new president will have to tackle a struggling economy and widespread insecurity in Africa's most populous country.
Bola Tinubu, do solemnly swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I will discharge my duties and perform my functions honestly, to the best of my ability and faithfully, in accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the law.
The recently sworn-in Nigerian president received international support after being accompanied by delegations from several regional and Latin American countries. The presidents of Ghana and Rwanda were among a number of leaders from across the continent who were present. During the ceremony, Bola Tinubu was congratulated by the government of Venezuela under the representation of the Executive Vice President for Planning, Ricardo Menendez. The head of state was also greeted by Foreign Minister Denis Moncada, who attended the ceremony on behalf of the Nicaraguan government. We have come to the end of this news briefing. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.